Well, it's good to be here with you, Bobby. Bobby Brock for the audience. Bobby Brock is with the Imperial Valley Community Foundation, and Bobby, I think we should just start like from the beginning. So, why don't you tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself growing up in the Imperial Valley and what it means for you to be there now professionally in this funding role?
Yeah, no, I'm a fourth generation Valley resident. I was born back on the East Coast when my dad was working with the government, and then came back when I was about a year and a half old, but grew up in El Centro in a predominantly farming family. And just ended up going to school at San Diego State and took a job with the Boy Scouts after graduation. Moved back to the Valley as a local executive, serving Imperial County and San Diego, and then just transitioned through a few different jobs with the financial services industry, and wound up as a volunteer with the community foundations. We were revitalizing that around 2007-8, and came on per request, and I guess applied. Yes, I did apply. It wasn't given to me to be the president CEO back in March of 2008. So it was something I believed in as a volunteer and felt was important enough personally to go ahead and make that change full time, to really dedicate some of my passion for the opportunities and the community. And I've been doing that for the last 13 years or so. So it's been good. It was real easy to go back and plant roots. I couldn't farm because I killed too many palm trees growing up, but planting roots in the community service realm was something that was close to me. How about you?
Well, I do have one question though before we move on to me. Could you say a little bit more about what it's like growing up in a farming family?
Yeah,
I mean, you have to get up early every day, all these chores, the heat in the summer.
Oh, I had chores and the hay fever and the heat blisters from working in diesel parts and everything, and of course loading the trucks with the forklift, and just being around that environment of of agriculture taught a lot of it taught me respect, and appreciation for people just from all walks of life, and to give value and respect everybody, and that there's a lot of joy no matter what the job was. And I just always appreciated that, even if we couldn't communicate. And I think now too, that's something that I've learned to see more often is, language isn't it's not necessarily a barrier to progress and development. It's just one avenue that we use to communicate and engage with people. So if we build those skills, then we can do more of it. But otherwise, it's not the only roadblock. It's just perhaps a temporary obstacle that we have to get through or struggle with, and sometimes the fun comes along with that. Botching a language respectfully, but I think the agriculture, of course, it was eye-opening again in some ways to the hard work and dedication of people and their talents, as well as the beauty of the area, sincere appreciation.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing more about that. I mean, I didn't grow up in a farming family, but I grew up in Calipatria. It was all, of course, surrounded by agriculture. I loved it. There was a small town. When I was there, it was about 3,500 people. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew my dad because he was a city council member and he was a mayor of the town. And the worst part about it is that sometimes I'd be pulled over by a police officer to tell me that my mom and my dad wanted me to go home. And I was always hoping that they were pulling me over for a ticket. I said, "No, I hope you don't embarrass me in front of my friends that my mom and my dad want me home." But so it was a great place. I really loved it there. And and then as you mentioned, because of my education and my career, I went off. I left the Valley, even though, like I said, as a kid, I loved it there. Just really enjoyed, all the different things that you can do there. Then went to college, and my career expanded all over the place, and came back. And now I'm glad to be back. And it's really interesting because, I think about, I have my niece, her daughter wrote a report on me, and we've never met. She lives in Idaho, but she's really young and never met. And when she shared the report with me, I was totally surprised. And I kind of feel that way about the Imperial County now coming back, because as a kid, I thought of the Imperial Valley a certain way. And now as an adult, a whole different way, thinking about, economically, how it's doing, the industry that's there, and so forth. And also now working with these future leaders of the Imperial County. So as a funder and meeting, all these nonprofit professionals and these organizations and the great work that they're doing, I'm just totally amazed and excited too, though, that just about everybody that I meet with, it's probably yourself, is they're either I know them or they're connected to somebody that I know, and there's only one degree of separation, right. And so it makes it really nice because there's these relationships that were built, maybe not just by myself, but even with my parents or my siblings, but I can still turn to those folks, and it's as if they know me, and so that feels good about being back in the Imperial Valley.
Yeah, no cops are pulling you over either.
Yeah, no, I don't want them to pull me over now, because now they'd probably pull me over for a ticket. But
we're not editing anything, are we?
No, I mean, so when you think about the Imperial County now as sort of a vibrant contributor in our greater region, right? Because as kids, we didn't think much about the Imperial Valley as this, vibrant contributor to the region. What do you think about the valley now? What do you tell people about it?
Well, I think a lot of times we sell ourselves short. There's a lot of opportunity, and need to develop more civic pride and I don't want to say buy-in, but belief in what the region has to offer and the industries that are successful, and whether that is agriculture or even medicine through nursing and some of the different public safety and fire safety programs, the law enforcement presence, the government jobs with the prisons and Homeland Security, as examples. Those are all stable industries, but there's a lot more that can be enhanced behind that, and we're seeing that with higher education and of course the regional opportunities, not just with San Diego and Coachella Valley, but also across the border with Mexicali and down into Baja. So that mindset has shifted, as opposed to what are we going to do this weekend, as opposed to what can we do to make a difference in the long term. So I think there's tremendous partners, that we look at and trying to, build up some of those as we identify them. So when you say what, for funders and some of the collaboration, I think those opportunities are ripe, because there's so many different, areas that, could be used as a focus for pilot programs, as well as, those that we have some real studs out there that have been doing great work that with a little bit more help could do even more and build out some models that could be replicated in other parts of the country or scaled up locally. You come back into town, based on your experience, in San Diego with projects here in Oregon and other rural communities, what are you seeing, as similar opportunities or what comes to mind now that you're back on the scene?
Well, there's a lot of unique opportunities. And so one of the things that I do in doing this type of work, as well as I'm sure you do, is I always tell people, I listen a lot, right? I listen to learn and then look for those opportunities. And one of the things that I've noticed is, there are some communities and some community groups that don't have much of a voice or visibility. Right. And they're looking for that, right? And with that comes these opportunities, right? I was just meeting with some folks in the town of Nyland recently, and they talked about, back in, I don't remember, the 60s or 70s, their parents all grew tomatoes, right? And then the tomato industry turned, and so now they're no longer able to grow tomatoes there in Nyland, but yet the property has sat there, the land has sat there empty for many years. And so I look at, wow, what are these opportunities? These folks that, grew up with me, they were my age, as kids, we grew up together, and now they're adults that have this land that's been transferred over to them, but they're not doing anything with that land. And so for me, that's a huge opportunity there, right? That I hope that we can look at, are they able to grow other vegetables on that land, right? Are they able to take opportunities with, some of the solar, opportunities there as well, or investments. And also I think about, ownership, right? Because there's one thing, I talk a lot about, the difference between engagement and ownership, and especially economic ownership. Are there economic opportunities for folks to actually invest in some of these, whether it's the renewable energy sources and so forth? Recently, I took a tour of the geothermal plants, and again, just it's amazing, right? And are there opportunities though for people here in the Imperial Valley to invest in those, to be part owners in some of those? So those are some of the things that I'm looking at right now, and I hope to see in the future.
I think and what you said reminds me of that saying. Stephen Covey said it, and others have said it before him. But seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think we've seen a lot of our communities that have been hurting or felt underheard, that might be under-resourced, underprivileged, underserved, or just underutilized and underappreciated. So I think you coming in and wanting to engage and speak with people, is something that just adds a lot of, it humanizes things. Where you treat people as equals and you want to hear what they have to say, because it has value. And I think that we have so many folks, even especially in our smaller communities too, that just haven't had a chance to be at that forefront or have a seat at the table, to be a contributing member, as opposed to just someone that's trying to stir the pot or that we don't know where they're coming from. And I think that there's a lot of healing that comes through that conversation to try and understand others before we go in and fix their problems, because we don't know what the problems are. And how do we not sell ourselves, but share what we have to offer and find some of those commonalities in terms of how we can support each other. So I appreciate your experience and mindset coming in, and of course I think the question is there. I'll just share that I appreciate the Ivy Wellness Foundation and your experience, because I followed your work, and I've mentioned this to you before, through your brother Bob, and his bragging about you and all the good stuff that you've done over the years. So now to have you back in the Valley, implementing some of those same strategies and techniques, and just the community building and engagement processes, is really exciting. And of course, too, to build Ivy Wellness as a funder that, I think is someone that is also, in addition to the community foundation, focused on the well-being of the entire community, that has your strengths and attention given specifically to health and wellness, are, just critical components of that well-being. And for the community foundation, it's a little bit more broad, because, we're somewhat relegated to what the donors come to us with and their interests. So just to have that other piece of the puzzle plugged in is something that I don't want to say we don't worry about, but that we can leverage, and make introductions to. And you remind me that there shouldn't be a fear of relationships and ownership, of a Rolodex, that in order to really grow the community. And I think we're going to see more of that. Is just the introductory, the piece of introductions and connecting people. And now too, as we start talking about some of the regional opportunities in terms of bringing funders in to visit the Valley and partner with us, is something that I'm excited about. And I think you're definitely the right person to have on the scene to help, push some of that forward, along with the support from Catalyst and other folks.
Yeah, I'll add to that, because I think, one of the things when people ask me, what's one of the highlights that you have now that you've been, doing this position with the Wellness Foundation, I said, working with Bobby Brock at the Imperial Valley Community Foundation. So I'm really excited that we've had the opportunity, to connect and to start talking about some of this work. And I'm really looking forward to what that might look like in the future. And I know that, Catalyst has been a part of those conversations as we start thinking about how do we attract more resources and more funders to the Imperial Valley, right? And so we started to talk about this Rural Funders Network and what that might look like. And so I'm really excited about that piece of work. And also I think that it's an opportune time, because right now there's a lot of national attention and focus on rural communities, right? And the exciting thing is, like 1 out of every 5 people in the United States live in a rural community, right? And so it's about 60 million people or something like that. And that's really exciting that we're part of that. And I think it's the type of attention that we're receiving, I think, can be really beneficial for the Imperial Valley and for philanthropy, because again, in rural America, philanthropy, there's about 6% of philanthropic dollars in rural America, and we definitely need to bring that up somewhat. And so I'm really looking forward to working together with you, Bobby, and with Megan at Catalyst in promoting our region as a very critical, I think, and rural area for the country. It already is with agriculture and with renewable energy resources.
Rocky, I think a lot of times, that Imperial County is kind of often looked at and sometimes make that appeal that we're out there looking for help and that we don't have a lot to contribute and offer. And even though there might be individuals that have wealth, and are engaged as volunteers and leadership with different organizations, what do you see that Imperial Valley has to offer, even to San Diego? Because I know that we have, I'll just use the term, players, and key stakeholders that do represent not only Imperial Valley, but also statewide projects and national and international initiatives. But they're from Imperial County, and now too, as we look to build more collaboration with partners out of San Diego, what do you see is Imperial Valley residents and organizations bringing to the table?
Well, first of all, I tell people the Imperial Valley and San Diego County, they're like brothers and sisters, right? I mean, we all have family. We have family that lives in the Imperial Valley. We have family that lives in San Diego. And so I always tell people the freeway goes in both directions. There's a lot to offer that we have to offer in each. I mean, I drive down the freeways because I go back and forth to San Diego and Imperial County, at least once a week, because that's how much is going on between our two areas. And then I see traffic going, both ways. Recreation is huge here in the Imperial Valley, as you know. The places, the Imperial Valley is packed with people here. We love it. And in the winter, they come here to stay here as well. And so I really love that. And so hopefully, though, there's more opportunities, because I know right now we talk a lot about the opportunities around renewable energy sources, agriculture. There's probably a lot more opportunities, around tourism. Because we have, in the holidays, my son rides a dirt bike and I do too. And, you go out there and it's packed on the weekends or during holidays with all these recreational vehicles. But anyway, so we have some amazing folks, the County of Imperial, our public health department, Tony Rejudas and Esperanza Colio with the County of Imperial. Wonderful people, and they call Esperanza the rainmaker because she brings funding from all over the place to the Imperial County. And so there's a lot for folks to learn about how, one thing about the Imperial County is that we're resilient and we're resourceful. And I think that is really critical when you talk about how places, can move forward and advance. It's a lot has to do with the resiliency and resources.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a lot of willingness, like you said, that along with resiliency is the willingness to participate and make the trip and be at the table, and that, to go visit family in Mexicali, I mean, you're looking at a 2-hour ride, to come back home, to go, 3 or 4 miles, so driving 2 hours to participate in a meeting in San Diego or to show up at an event, and how to see the table is really no big deal, at least in some of the circles that I run in. And I think that, we see the value in that because we want folks to know that we're committed.
Right. And, Bobby, one of the things I know we're close to our time, but I think one of the things that's really important to me is that I think that just anywhere people have an opportunity to be, well, I feel, first of all, that we talk a lot about community building. And, for me, community building is about working together to make things better. And I believe everybody has an opportunity to be a community builder. And I just love to get a shout out there to the people of the Imperial County, because there are some amazing community builders out there. There are people out there that are very passionate about the county, that have lived here, all their life, and others that moved here recently, but they really care about the Imperial County. And that's the one thing about, anywhere you go in the Imperial County, people are cordial to you. They say hello, they're welcoming. And so that's really what I love about this area here, are the people of the Imperial County.
I might have to travel with you more. I don't get all the hellos and whistles anymore. But yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's a different pace of life, but it doesn't mean that it's slow. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of opportunities, and now too the focus on redeveloping the curriculum for higher education, vocational, technical schools. Hopefully, we'll see new industries come out there to prevent some of that talent and brain drain that we've seen, and people gone to San Diego and other places and done very well, but there's a lot of that same talent that we'd like to retain in the valley, and those are not just bright minds but also generous hearts, and then too to give credit to the people that have stayed and give back no matter what their financial position is or their experience in volunteering. So I think, yeah, the door is wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the last things I'll say that's really important for us is when we think about equity. I think addressing equity nationally requires investments in rural America. And I hope to see a lot more investments in rural America, and especially in the Imperial Valley.